are you?
I'm good. I'm pretty good today. Sunrise is at 9 in the morning, so it's getting the day is getting really short.
Yeah, I can imagine.
How are you?
Good. Well, here it's already, lunchtime, so slightly different part of the day, and yeah. Enjoying our good connection today and excited about this conversation.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we said we were thinking about what shall we cover today, and I think this topic we haven't addressed it yet, and it's really something that is I'm really passionate about. It's about communication and effective communication, and my background is in transactional analysis, and transactional analysis is all about communication and how those transactions between two people are formed. And it's interesting that in our understanding, what we have is that when we are interacting like two people with each other, we are actually interacting with 6 states. So because we all have, from transactional analysis point of view, we have 3 ego states: adult, parent, and child. So when I'm speaking to you, I might be addressing to your adult, but I don't know from which ego state you will respond. And it's really interesting when you start to dig in into actual conversations that went wrong, to see where you were and where somebody else was. So when you start to look at it and seeing, okay, I was talking from adult, but maybe they responded from a child or from a parent, and then you start crashing a little bit, and why this happened and how to calm down. Maybe we'll talk about this also today, because it's so interesting. And we also have hidden messages inside our conversations, and yeah, it's a good topic.
It's fascinating, and I'm not familiar, so maybe you'll cover it a bit more in detail later on about this kind of 3 lenses, especially the parent one is quite new to me. In a way, it's similar to the frameworks that, like, except for the parent bit, the approach used by Terry Real, whose work I admire a lot on relationships, and you know Terry as well, right? So he talks about I can't remember his exact terminology, but basically there is an adult, and then there is a wounded child, and there is an adoptive child. So that's kind of, again, you have 3 layers, but they are slightly different. And as you said, absolutely, whenever something goes wrong, it's because you are not really communicating level to level. And I think no matter which school or thought or philosophy you follow in terms of classification of those different states, what is very important is to understand that there is what you're saying and the meaning that you have behind the words that come out of your mouth, but the way the other person receives it can be completely different. So it's not exact mirror image, and quite often it can be very different because we all receive the information, and it's not only verbal information, right? So much of it is nonverbal. We receive it through the lens of all our background, beliefs and ideas about ourselves, about the world, about the relationship with this particular person, so many things. And you may never be, you may intend it in the best way possible, but something gets activated in the other person that really triggers that wounded child, if we use that terminology, and they go back to the reaction of a 2-year-old, and you can't make sense of it. So I think just being mindful of that and not expecting that the other person always would receive the message as you intended it, and just being open to exploring the possibility and perhaps having a conversation around what it is that you actually meant, and being open, not getting defensive on either side, right? And just understanding that, yeah, this is what I said, and maybe they received something else.
There is also, like you said, how they receive the message, but also how they see you. So if I see you as an authority, I will go into my child state, because in our terminology we have three childs. So we have adopted child, we have like normal wild child, and we have rebellious child.
Mm.
And also in parent we have like nurture and nurture parent, and we have critical parent.
Mm.
And critical parent is usually the ones who is or giving you a lesson or is criticizing you. And in our inner dialogue, we usually have this critical parent a lot, because he's like, you shouldn't do that, you must do that, this is not appropriate, you should be doing this and that and that. And then when you are talking with yourself, your inner child, it might get rebellious and said, no, I want to do that, this is right. Or it goes into this adoptive child state and it says, yeah, you're right, I'm really nobody, I shouldn't be doing that, this is all my fault. And you go into these shameful cycles and everything. So also inside of us, we have all these different layers of communication. And when you know this, when you have a little bit of knowledge of those inner states, or how you perceive the message, how you react, and it doesn't matter what is the terminology, then you can start having a better relationship with yourself and with others.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're going back to awareness, right? First step, as always, is just understanding and opening our mind to the possibilities that a different way may exist. And also, not only when your message is not received by the other person the way you expected, but also when you are reacting to what someone else communicated to you, there could be this, it's exactly the same way, right? Sometimes we just something completely innocent from the other person is received by us in a totally different way because of something we've been through in our lives and the way we see ourselves. So also being curious about your own reactions, and sometimes you can actually, the more you practice it, the better you become at it. That's my experience. And sometimes you can actually pause in the moment before you react and actually respond to that, or maybe ask the person clarifying questions to make sure that you are indeed on the same page and that your ideas and thoughts of the worst possible reaction are not taking over. But sometimes, yeah, I still snap. I react out of that unconscious pattern, but at least now I can reflect on it and understand what has gone wrong there, why I reacted the way I did. And I would go back to that person and say, look, I overreacted and this is what has happened. And yeah, just, also admitting that sometimes we are not being very reasonable, and that goes a long way.
I think owning your mistakes is really crucial here in communication and in our lives in general, because we are all human and we cannot be perfect. And if out of 100% of our doing, we do like 20% mistakes, it's okay if we own them and if we admit them. So, or to ourselves or to others if they are also in this process. Yeah. So I'm thinking about how to. I was studying a lot Marshall Goldsmith and his tactics, and I really liked one technique he uses a lot with people that are really hyper or angry, or they are in this critical parent state that they just want to give you a lesson or something, or argue with you with no reason, because this is just their mode of being. And first thing that you can do if you come into contact with this kind of person, you just agree with them. Yes, I agree, this shouldn't be done like that. And then you try to bring them to their adult state, to their reasonable state, and just give them facts. This is how it was, this is this and this and this, and owning your mistakes, like you said before, and not pointing on their personality, because I think most of people still don't know how to talk properly. They say you are unreasonable, or you are too angry, or whatever, you point fingers to them. But in good communication, we are speaking about ourselves. I feel uncomfortable in this kind of conversation. I feel this conversation is getting unprofessional. Or I feel like this is not okay from my side. The way you are talking to me, I just don't feel it's okay. So you're not pointing fingers to you're doing this and that, but you're just speaking about how you feel about it, or how you perceive this message that you were given. And like you said before, when you say it like that, the other people get also feedback how you perceived it, and they can then clarify it further if they are open to like normal dialogue. But if they are just wanting to shut you down, they will just go and attack you like a little child that has no defense. But yeah, we have all right to be defensive also, on the other hand. So it's not always to calm down the communication, the argument. Sometimes we need also to defend ourselves, but we need to have this in mind. Like, what is my end goal? Like in partnership, if I'm talking with my husband, my end goal is that we are good in this relationship, not that I will win. But if I have only the win in my mind, like in US elections nowadays, then they don't care, they just smash each other down because the toughest is the one who might win, but it's not usually like that. So, yeah, always have the end goal in mind.
I like that. Yeah, it's almost like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And if it is a relationship kind of a situation, then again, if you put down the other person and you win, it's not very likely that either of you are going to feel happy, because there is this balance, right? And also, you still are a team. You are working towards clear goals. So it's not really about defeating the other person. What I also liked about what you were saying, Petra, around the way to communicate it, right? And to position it from how you perceive it or receive it. And another point close to that is that it's not really pointing out that you are a bad person, you are horrible, you're angry, you're this, you're that, but what you've done or what you're doing. So it's more related to a particular action of the person rather than them as a person, let's say. It's less threatening and it's more likely to be received better, because in the end of the day, yes, in any situation, perhaps where you want to end up is where you can actually understand each other and hear each other, because you might be actually agreeing fundamentally, but you're just not communicating your points clearly. And I've seen that happen as well.
Yeah, I always say I feel like you're really stressed. Am I right? Am I feeling you correctly, or what is going on now with our dialogue, because it's not working the way we are used to do? And then usually you get back the response, yeah, I'm really thinking about the work issues, or this and this is happening in my life. And then you also understand it, okay. But if you don't ask, if you just assume that he or she is angry at you, or that you did something wrong, then you get into this defensive state, or in the pleasing state, whatever is your go-to way in communication, and then the things might get really ugly. Because you become like in this drama triangle that we have, you may be the rescuer or you may be the prosecutor, and maybe it's not your job to be either of those, just to be you and just talk normally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just said something on my mind and it just slipped completely. Oh yeah, something that also in the conflict situations, there is always if there is curiosity present, if you can still maintain that calm state where you can just be curious about what's going on, it really helps to understand your interpretation. So so and so said this or did this. Okay. And then what do I make it mean about myself? Because that's what it comes down to, right? And usually you'll find yourself in a situation and that means they don't respect me. And what does that mean? Oh, that means I'm not good enough or I'm not lovable or you go down that rabbit hole as deep as you need to go. But what is the interpretation I'm attaching to this that actually hurts me? Because it's not their words, it's my interpretation, or not even their actions, And it's an interesting exercise I've seen Gabor Mate do a few times, especially it works amazingly in big audience, So when someone shares a recent situation where they got triggered, and he would also ask, what did you make it mean about yourself? And people would always come up with this kind of painful interpretations. And if it's about relationships, it will be like, oh, they don't care about me, I'm not important, all of that. And then he said, and you know what? You might be right. We don't know. But could there be a different interpretation? And then he asks the wide audience, what else could have been behind it? And then you hear 30, 20 different options that might as well just be true, And that could be, oh, that person was, they didn't answer to your call because they had a car accident. They got delayed in a job meeting. They had something. There are so many possibilities and we never know, but our mind automatically tends to pick up the worst possible, the most painful scenario to us. And we just don't see any other possibilities. This is what it is. They just don't appreciate me. They don't care. They don't love me. They don't respect me.
I think we think about when we do that, we just remembering all those experiences we had with our primary caregivers or with our peers. And I think this is what is speaking here, because like when I am talking with my husband and we are in total the same scenario, he perceives it totally different as I do, because he was raised differently, and for him is normal that people like him. For me, this is not normal. I always have to remind myself, okay, it's okay. This should be normal, because usually we like each other. It's not like you go around the world and you are just disliking everybody. Every time we give new people a chance, and then we decide if we are a good fit or not. But from my experiences, I just have this feeling like nobody likes me, And this is the lens that I have to constantly, like, say, cleaning my glasses, that this is not true. This is just something that I was taught to look at those lenses. So every time now I just said to myself, okay, this is something from the past. This is not real. This was. It's not here anymore.
Thank you for sharing your personal experience. And indeed, it shows up for many years, right? And I think what does help is actually being aware of your own lenses and what clouds your lens. What kind of beliefs do you hold from your own childhood? My big one is like, I'm not important. So whenever someone is not really acting the way I expect them to act, it's like that gets activated, like, oh, they're not respecting me, I'm not important to that person. And it could be in personal relationships, it could be even in work related relationships. And I'm very aware of it now, but it helps to figure out which one is affecting you, and if you are in a relationship, what are the ones that your partner is really sensitive to, so you can understand them better. And it goes back, so it's so deep, right? It's not even just a mental concept, it's in the body, because when we work through those triggers and we talk about what has happened, what did you make it mean about yourself, how did you perceive it, and if you check in with your body at that point in time, you will always find some tension, some discomfort, something. And if you take it a step further and you connect and you go back, how familiar is that sensation? And it could be tightness in your throat or, discomfort in your belly. And if you're really in the process and you stay and you feel your body, you will almost travel back in time and you'll say, oh, I felt this when I was 5 years old, and I don't know, my mom was late to pick me up from the kindergarten or whatever it was, you know. So as a 30, 40, 50-year-old person, you're still reliving that body sensation and that emotion of a 5-year-old kid who thought, oh my God, my parents don't care about me, they didn't pick me up, you know. And we react as a 5-year-old, right? Because we are in that space.
We do. Yeah, that's why, like you said, Irina, and we are talking about this all the time. It's the awareness is crucial. So I like to give my clients an exercise to think about it, and just really be curious, like in what kind of ego state they are most of the time. Like when they are talking with themselves, in what kind of ego state they are. When they are talking with their loved ones, what kind of ego state they occupy. When they are talking with their boss or with their coworkers, with the neighbors. And then you get the picture, like overall picture. Okay, with this person, I feel intimidated, and that's why I go into the adopted child. Maybe this person reminds me on my school teacher, and I go into the rebellious child. Or maybe when I'm talking to my spouse, I feel like they're really not correct, and I go to the critical parent, you know, and I try to teach them a lesson. And then when you really get the whole picture about all the dynamics that you have with your with people in your life, then you can start addressing them and start correcting them and really being talking with them from adult to adult, like we should be, because we don't want to put somebody down, or we don't want to praise somebody all the time, because we are equal and we are talking with each other as equals. And I think this is the ultimate goal in communications, that I perceive you as equal, and I know that you are talking to me also as I'm equal to you. And I think also in therapies, in coachings, we do that. We are not somebody who is there somewhere up and we look down to our clients, but we are accepting them as equals to us and teaching them how to do that also. And I think this is really a nice gift that we can give to each other. And I also wanted to say something. Yeah, in arguments, when you really have a heavy argument with somebody, maybe with your spouse or with your not boss, it's not, I think, on that level that you can do that, but with somebody that you really care deeply about, you try to listen them really hard, like really actively. And when they stop speaking, you repeat what you understand they were saying. And when you do that, you try yourself understanding what is their message. And then they will say, oh, yes, this is correct, this is not correct. And usually when we are in arguments, we just want to defend our right. Like, this is my statement, and if you don't accept my statement, then I'm less. But this is not correct. So when you start to really actively listening and you try to understand, and you said, okay, say, I heard you say this and this and this. Is this correct? Is this what you are really thinking? Then you give the validation to the other person. You give them this gift of really listening and understanding them and showing them that you want to understand their position. And I think when you do that, they also see you differently, because you're not in this combative state, but you try to understand. You are in this curiosity state. And maybe when you listen actively, you also change some perspective that you had before, and give yourself this open space to be wrong, because we all learn and we all adapt. And if we get some new data that are showing us that our way of thinking maybe is not 100% correct, it's good that we adopt it. It's not like I'm strong and I have to believe this because this is what I believed for, I don't know, for all my life, you know. The earth is flat.
Literally took it off my head. I was just had this thought and you said it about the earth is flat. No, I love that. And I think, you know, we do it a lot in our work as well. And I think mirroring is so powerful, because also not only you're validating the person, you show them that you're trying to and you're willing to hear their perspective. But very often, if you actually mirror it back and you paraphrase it in the way you understood it, they may correct you and say, no, that's not what I meant. And then they almost clarify it. They add additional information. And you actually, then you're not opposing each other, but you're on the same team. You're on the same side. You're looking at the same picture and trying to complete that puzzles by adding additional information. So, I hear you say this and this. No, I meant this and this. Okay. And it may take a few rounds of going back and forth, but potentially you'll realize that you see things the same way, or at least you will have more understanding of why they're seeing it the way they are, and maybe it will affect the way you're interpreting what they said in the first place. So very powerful exercise. Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing.
And now when you were saying that, I literally got an image of a tree in front of my mind. When you are arguing with somebody, we usually want to be on one side of the river or on the other side. But if you are trying to find a common ground, like said, the trunk of the tree, those are our beliefs that we have in common. But we can have a lot of branches that are unique to ourselves.
Yeah.
So if you go to this strong core of our mutual beliefs, then it's easier to navigate all those nuances that are different. Like you are thinking this way, I'm thinking this way, but our core belief is still the same. But if we are just going about the nuances, then we are both on each side of the river and we are just going further and further apart. So I think this is also something that we can start with. What are our commonalities? And then, okay, these are the differences and what can we do about them? Are they really so important that we cannot live with them? Or is it something that is doable and we can do something about them? Yeah.
Beautiful.
All those communications there. So we could talk hours about this because it's so many points and things that we can cover. And we also, in transactional analysis, we like to speak about hidden transactions, like social transactions, if you like to say. Like if I'm speaking to you and I don't want to be direct, I give you a verbal meaning of something and I'd give you a psychological meaning of something else. So let's say you are now in the dating scene, and if you say some guy, let's say, oh, do you wanna come up to listen to the music, then this might have different meanings, Yeah, you can be like really direct. I want to show you the latest song that I heard and I really like it and I want your opinion, and this is like straight. But you might have different meanings, And if somebody else is then asking you, oh, you want to do something else than listen to the music, then you are like, no, I didn't mean that. Yeah, but you were giving this impression, Or maybe let's go to the different topic. You said you will be home at 5, and then you come home at 6:30. And somebody asks you, what's the time? And they might think like, what is the time? Because they don't know. They are doing something and they're not aware. And you could say 6:30. Or you could say, oh, I was just running late. I had this and that and that. And it was a big queue on the road. And it was congestion and all these lame excuses that we make. So it's also like how you perceive it and what they are meaning with this not direct messaging, and we have a lot of this indirect messaging in our lives because some things you don't want to speak directly, but you just give this hidden meaning inside the message, like a little gift that if the other person is not aware of it, they might not understand it. And then you are offended, oh, they didn't understand me, or they think like, oh, I'm not attractive to them enough that they would come to listen to the music, But they're just not up for music.
For too long. People invite now for Netflix. They don't invite you to listen to music. It's called Netflix. Everyone knows.
Okay.
And I don't even own a TV, so if I invite someone for Netflix, I mean, that's kind of... But I'm wondering, when you were talking about this hidden thing, for me, what came to my mind is like a lot of that sounds like what people use in passive aggressive comments. They're like on the surface, it's something, but the other person, especially, as it accumulates and it just adds on, they would always receive it as, it's just trying to get to me, Would you say that's the hidden message that are often used that way as well, or
of course they can.
Is that something else? Yeah,
it can be. I have many kind of this kind of hidden transactions I received, and then I'm just like, first when you receive this kind of message, no, I'm really okay, I'm okay. When somebody's saying I'm okay, nothing's bothering me, and then you go maybe to the defensive state and you start to arguing with them. But what is better is like, oh, you say you're okay, but I really feel the frustration that your body language is giving out. What is really the problem? And I all the time, like not all the time, but when I am aware of the conversation, and this can be with my mom, we have this dynamic that sometimes is really triggering for both of us. And I say, what is the real problem here? Because it's not about the weather is bad, or you were late, or I don't know, you didn't call me for last 3 days. But what is the real problem here?
Yeah.
And usually people on the other side, they are not aware of it. Like we are, because we are trained to be aware, and we are just constantly every day reminding ourselves, okay, what is that meaning, what were I thinking, what was I feeling, and we are constantly in this kind of awareness, what is going around. But many people, they just live their lives and they don't even ask themselves once in a year, what did I meant when I said that? Because it's just their modus operandi that they just act like this and they don't think about it and they just blub it out, And when you start to ask them, okay, what is the real problem? Maybe they start to think about it. No.
Or they feel attacked and threatened.
Yeah. But also might be. I usually say, I really like you. To my mom, I love you, but this is not working. So tell me, what is the real problem here?
Yeah.
No. And when you show this kind of affection that you like somebody, then their defense system usually crumbles down, because they really know that you care about them, that you have good attention for them, and they can be also vulnerable with you, and they don't have to put all these defenses up.
Yeah. No, and it's a practice, right? We also still getting better at it, even though we are so much in this environment and we've done a lot of work. It's just, it really helps once you start understanding it. And quite often now, instead of being frustrated when I act out of that unconscious pattern, I almost laugh. I'm like, oh, it's that again. Okay, fine. I recognize it. It's like you smile to it. Okay, here you are. Okay, that's fine. Welcome back. We'll work through it. So, yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, it is. And I also snap sometimes, especially when somebody, not that they pushes, but I'm triggered by some old wound that I have, and they accidentally go and rub that wound, and I just snap. And but like you said in the beginning, it's all about awareness. You can say, okay, I just snapped. It wasn't my intention. This is something that I have to deal with it, because it's still hidden somewhere inside me. And this is something that I'm still working on. But I would like to do this better, And then you also show that you have good intentions for this relationship that you are in. And but it's always the tango. You need two people for that, and somebody on the other side is really immature or really convinced in their own rightness, then you might not get across. So we are not wizards.
And I think you need to be, if you're a more mature one of the two and you can't get the point across, then your lesson is in accepting it and allowing it, and stop laboring the point and trying and forcing it on the other person. Like, no, but you need to understand. No, they don't. They don't. They don't owe you anything. They are on their own journey, and that's fine. And your lesson is to say, well, okay, I did my best. I communicated. I explained. I owned my mistakes. Now it's out of my hand. It's their business.
Mm.
And if they want to be mad at me, if they want to be upset, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, I think if you try, if you really try, and you try multiple times, not only once, to fix whatever is going on, and they don't accept it, then your conscience is clear. Then you can just rub it off and forgive yourself, forgive that person if you want to, and just move on. There's nothing else we can do. No hard
and feelings, I think it's about accepting what is, right? It's also their right. They may not want to be more mature. They may not want to embark on this awareness journey of understanding themselves better. They might be very happy where they are at, where they just blame everything on other people, and they believe that the world is so unfair. And people are, assholes and whatever, and they're just the best things that ever walked the face of the earth, and that's okay. Let them be.
Yeah, but you think this is the happiness path that you can choose?
No, but again, your happiness is in not trying to change, or you can't change, yeah. Right? So your happiness is because if you try to persuade them again that they need to get on your path,
you'll be miserable.
You're gonna be miserable, exactly. So it's like, okay, I tried. I told you, there is a nice, convenient path. Do you want to try? And they're like, no, thank you. Okay, fine.
Yeah. So what, right? And let's move on. Yeah. Oh, this was a good conversation today. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. But it feels like we could go on forever, but we are already kind of 35 minutes in, so maybe we can wrap it up. If you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, we just say that, like, whenever we are in communication with somebody, even with ourselves, to be aware of what is going on. Why are we choosing the thoughts that we are choosing? And maybe now we were talking a lot about these ego states, and just to think about in which kind of ego state I am in. Am I acting like a child? Am I acting like a parent? Am I acting like nurturing parent? Or am I acting like an adult? And just be aware of how you treat other people, how you perceive they're treating you, and how you react to the messages that you are receiving, and act accordingly, and just have in mind what is the end goal here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And listen really actively. I think this is crucial, not to start listening something and you hear like first half of the sentence and you just form some response in your mind and you don't even get the message somebody's trying to get to you. So this is hard. Listening actively is hard, but it's a practice.
Yeah,
it's a practice.
Because most people are listening to respond, not to listen, right? That's how we are taught. But I love the saying that there is a reason why we have one mouth and two ears, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's also good to think about before we speak, even especially in situations that are a little bit edgy. Not to just react, but to pause a bit, maybe for 2, 3, 5 seconds. Also for a minute is okay. And then react.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Rima. It's great to have you with us.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody who is watching, listening, and commenting, and then sharing, and we love you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Petra, for sharing your experiences. So from my end as well, if I'm just to leave you with a very, very, very short summary of everything we spoke about today, guys, is awareness, active listening, understanding that there are different perspectives and it's not always what you perceive as what was intended and the other way around. So mirror it back, make sure you understand each other, and keep in mind the end goal. Why are you having this conversation with this person? What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to arrive? Do you just want to prove that you're right? And if so, a good question to ask, why is it so important for you to be right? So thank you, everyone, and have a lovely week.
Have a lovely weekend. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.